boys and girls. I just put the tarot deck out yesterday, and it's selling like crazy. So if you bought it, today's Sunday. Tomorrow I'll be packaging, putting things together, and I'll probably be in touch with you through email about when it's going out, when you should expect it. I'll probably be going to the post office on Tuesday. So thank you for your interest, and it's going well, and that's that. Also, I wanted to tell you July 14th is the next tarot group meeting, virtual meeting. It's a Zoom. If you go to Tarot Maps and go to tarotmaps.com and go to Virtual Tarot, you'll see a link to the room there. There might be a password, I'm not too sure. But come on by, say hello. From 12 o'clock Chicago time to whenever it ends. Anyway, I wanted to talk about the card spreads. And I'm writing my next book, and I'll be using my deck, by the way. And I really wanted to go over card spreads, because I really think that that's the most important part of the reading, is the card spread, not the cards. We focus a lot on the cards, the various decks, the symbolism in this deck, the symbolism in that deck. And we don't really focus a lot on the application. And when they came out with the Rider deck in 1970, when they came back out with it then, that's when they had pictures to do that with. They were looking at the symbolism in the cards, or with the regular Marseille, they didn't really do that. And they didn't question what the cards looked like. So, and I really think we would have been better off if we would have looked into more with the application of what we're doing with these cards than the symbolism on these various decks. I think we spend too much time looking at the cards. And I think that can hurt you. So I think it's interesting if I look at an old deck and instructions on the deck here that came with it. It'll say the art of playing tarot cards. Playing tarot cards. I never liked that expression, but so playing tarot cards was almost like playing poker. It was that's how it was looked at. And if I look at if I was making a book on how to play poker instead of how to read tarot cards, now they're two totally different things, but there's some parallels there that I think are kind of interesting. If I was making a book on how to play poker, I wouldn't be spending a lot of time on the symbolism of the deck of playing cards. And you could, I mean, but if I'll show you something that I think is pretty interesting here. Symbolism, playing cards. The two one-eyed jacks, Jack of Hearts and the Jack of Spades. They both look in different directions. Both one-eyed. Spades stood for struggles, death even, strife, sadness. And hearts stood for love, feeling. Basically, you could look at the tarot and say swords and cups. And the young Jack of Hearts looks directly at that pip. He's a one-eyed Jack. He's looking right at that heart. Young, love is very intense at that time, and the Jack of Spades looks directly away from the pip spade. Too young to die, doesn't want to face challenges that are, he's too young to think about that. If you look at the King and Queen of Spades, they're not one-eyes, but they're not looking, they're looking away from the spade, but not directly away from it like the Jack. So they accept it a little bit more as they get older. And if you look at the King and Queen of Hearts, they look more directly, they look toward the pip, a heart, but not directly at it. So the spades, they look a little bit away. The hearts, they look a little bit toward, because love and feelings are something that when they're young, they're very intense, but when they get older, they realize that they're important, but they're not, they're a little bit more settled down. So now that's symbolism of playing cards, some of it. And if I were to put that in a book of playing poker, I don't think anybody would really be interested. There's nothing to do with the game. So it's an interesting parallel there to show you that if we focus more on the application of reading tarot cards, we might have gone a little bit too far into looking at these cards as far as the symbolism goes. I think it's more, I think we would have been better off over the years that I've been reading if we would have been looking more in the application of what we're doing with these cards, instead of all the various symbolism and meaning the cards can have. So that's my feelings. But so looking at a card spread, that's the application. It's a card spread. It's a map of the card, of the application of what you're doing here with these cards. And if we were to, if you look at what a card spread is doing, it helps you realize what you're doing with this process, and it helps you realize what's really important to focus on. And it is the application, as far as I'm concerned. Which is why my books go a little bit more into, all of them, going a little bit more into the application of the card spreads. Right now we have a coronavirus thing going on, which is why I don't have a haircut yet. Good excuse not to get a haircut. But everybody knows about coronavirus, COVID-19. So we're all familiar with that. And if you were to look at anytime you're going to look at any question, it's important that you break it apart into sections. That's the only way you're going to analyze it, of whatever it is you're looking into. And I was reading about the coronavirus on the news, about what they're talking. I was reading about something from WHO, World Health Organization, and COVID, or the CDC, Central Disease Control, or Center, whatever it's called. And there's 7 positions or categories in that virus that they're really looking into. 7 of them. 7 things that they think that they need to, they know about what they need to do with it. They're not looking for answers, but these are things that they have to address and work on. So those are social distancing, mask wearing, hand washing, testing, contact tracing, vaccination, and treatment. 7. So the question, coronavirus. How do we look at that? We break it apart into sections, like I just did. And we end up with 7 positions. 7 positions to look into, which allows us to figure out the order we want to focus on these with, what we have to take care of first, is there priorities here and there, and what we can do to get these done. Anytime you're going to look at any question and you're going to analyze it, you need to break it apart. So you can look at that and you can say, well, that's 7 positions. A card spread is your question broken apart into sections. And each position is supposed to be something that is significant into what we're looking into, whatever that question happens to be. So it would be determined by the card reader what card spread to use for that particular person based on their question, whether it's relationship or family issues or whatever it is. They would decide that. Now what's interesting with the card, so card spread is really a collection of issues that is looked at as being significant for any question you want to look into with tarot cards. So that basically a card spread is like a template of questions that are supposed to be significant in some way to the reading. And you never see a card spread. You only see the cards that are laid into it. The card spread is in the reader's mind. Card spread knows position 1 means this, position 2 means that. I think it's real easy to think that the card is supposed to represent that position. I don't really think it does. I think the card is meant to represent an idea or a suggestion for an answer to that position. So can in the 80s, I liked the Celtic cross. And in the 80s, I decided to, I didn't like the position meanings of the Celtic cross, but I liked it. But as I was reading people, I would see, I wish this meant something different. It would be more beneficial to the reading if it did. If position 6 meant something different than what it does, or position 3 was something more pertaining to the reading, and so on. So I started to adjust them a little bit, the meanings, to something that would be more useful to me. And that's when over time, I basically came up with my own meanings. I just changed them a little bit at a time, and I came up with my own. So if you look at a traditional Celtic cross card spread, but any card spread is the positions of a question, really. Horseshoe spread, gypsy spread, horoscope spread, Celtic cross, doesn't make any difference. They're just aspects of your question. And then cards are laid into those aspects to spark ideas for you, the reader, to this person. This card laid into this as it pertains to the question, this meaning of that position as it pertains to the question, this card helps me find ideas for that answer to that position. And that's what a card spread is doing. So if I looked into a traditional Celtic cross, you look at the meanings of those positions and you say, all right, they're kind of, they're classic and you can still use them, and they're in, I did put them in, you can get them anywhere, you could find them anywhere, but So there, but if you look at them, you can say, well, is this really that important to what I'm looking into? Position 1, this covers him. Position 2, this crosses him. 3, this is beneath him. Position 4, behind him. This crowns him. 5, this before him. 6, fears of the querent. 7, family opinions. 8, hopes. In 9, and the final outcome in 10. This also implies that this is what's going to happen, which means you're dealing with fate now. And I never agreed with that. I'm looking for what I can do to make something happen. To me, that's more constructive for the client. Here's what I think you should do to give yourself the best chances of success on this question. So better position meanings helps me do that. Details of those, Celtic Cross Old One. This covers in position 1. This card represents the general atmosphere surrounding the question. What influences are at work around the question right now? Okay. Position 2, this crosses him. This card should always be laid across the first card and is always read right side up. So if you use reverse meanings, you don't reverse 2. This card shows opposing forces to the question, good or bad. 3, this is beneath him. This card represents the basis of the matter, what has happened. So this is showing you, position 3 is showing you what has already happened. The client already knows what happened. Position 4, this is behind him. This card shows the influences that are just passing away now. Well, that's almost like position 3, what has happened. Position 5, this crowns him. This card represents something that may happen. Something that may happen. This crowns him. Position 5. Something that may happen. Position 6, this is before him. This card represents things that will come to pass in the near future. So position 5 is things that might happen. Position 6 is implying this is what will happen. Position 7, what the querent fears, the negative feelings he has about the question itself. Position 8, family opinions, the opinions and influence of family and friends that they have on the matter. Position 9, hopes, the client's own hopes and beliefs on the matter. And position 10, final outcome. The 10th and last card tells what the final outcome will be. It should include all that has been divined from the other cards. So I don't really like those. So I changed them. And again, the order that these cards are laid on the table doesn't make any difference. Where these cards are placed on the table, where these positions are placed on the table, isn't really that important. The order of what is being done from those positions is important, maybe, but the pattern on the table doesn't make any difference. If it's a horseshoe spread or if it's a gypsy spread across, it doesn't make any difference. What's important is what we're addressing about this question, what those positions mean. So that's why my cross looks a little different than a classic cross. Oh, with mine, in positions 1 and 2, I combine together. And I don't look at it as this crosses him and this covers him. I look at it, this is a look at the question itself. These two cards represent the question to me. This allows me to look at the question and maybe rephrase it or reword it in some way or turn it in a way that makes more sense. These cards might be giving me ideas on how to do that. Sometimes starting out with the correct question could be very important. It also allows me to verify what the client's seeing as a question might be a legitimate thing. I wouldn't change anything then. And position 3, I have on top there on my cross. And that's what the client is currently going through right now, the efforts they're making right now to try to make this thing happen. This allows me to look at it, take a card and look and see if there's something maybe they're doing wrong, maybe they're wasting their time with their efforts, maybe they should be doing something different. This allows me to question that. In position 4, in the 6 o'clock position with my cross, is what they're initially trying to accomplish, what the first priorities of what they're trying to accomplish. So they're making efforts in position 3 to get position 4 taken care of, started. Maybe what they're trying to do in position 4 isn't really a good idea. Maybe they'd be better off trying to do something else first, taking care of something else before they go into position 4. Maybe what they immediately want to try to get done should be changed. This allows me to question that. Position 5 on my cross is an asset the client has, something they have going for them that they don't realize or that they're not using to their fullest potential. This could be a person, this could be something about themselves, something they got going for them that'll help give them an edge on what they're trying to accomplish. Position 6 on my cross is an opportunity that's coming in the near future that they need to watch for. Keep an eye out for this because it could help you. Position 7 on my cross, lower right corner, bottom of the pillar, is how the client sees their own question. This allows me to question the client's viewpoint of what they're looking at. Maybe this is not really the best thing for them. Maybe they're not seeing things correctly. Maybe they see something as a negative thing, and really there's a silver lining there that they're not seeing. Or vice versa. Maybe they see something and really think this looks great, but they really need to watch out for it. So this allows me to question the client's own viewpoint of their own question. Position 7. Position 8 is the timing with my cross. This allows me to put things in priorities, what to get done first, when to do it. Do we wait until we get this asset in line from position 5? Do we wait for the opportunity to come in position 6 before we act? Do we wait till we change things or adjust things in positions 3 and 4 before we act? Or do we act to make those changes? It allows me to line things up a little bit by looking for ideas from the card I see in position 8. Position 9 on my cross is the purpose of the whole question. It allows me to look at the big picture here. What are you trying to accomplish here? Why do you want this in your life? What's the purpose of this whole thing, of this question? What's the purpose of it? Maybe you can go about getting that purpose in a whole different way. And position 10 is possibilities. If you act this way, I see this happening. It's things that you can anticipate happening along the way. So as you move forward to accomplish this goal, position 10 is more details of fine-tuning. Watch out for this. Or look out for this and watch for it. This might help you. Keep an eye on this. It allows me to fine-tune some things as they're making progress, as they're moving forward. I never look at it as a final outcome because the final outcome is saying yes or no. And to me, failure is not an option. we don't ever just give up, especially because of the turn of a card. So I'm looking at things that will help me with position 10 as I'm moving forward here. This is just more details, something to keep an eye out. This might be another asset, might be another opportunity. It might be something, a red flag coming up that I need to make sure I be aware of and be prepared for. So those are aspects to a question I think are a lot more useful, and it's because we could start to look at application, and we can question the old cross and say, this doesn't work as well as what I just did. And those are in my books, my cross. And they're on my YouTubes, by the way. But looking at the application and realizing that that's what's important allows us to fine-tune it and make it a more effective readings. So the order you're laying those cards on the table isn't important. What spread you use isn't really that important. What those positions mean in that spread is important. And can you change them to something more significant, something more to your liking? Yes, you can. And I can tell you that firsthand because that's what I did years ago. And I change them now and then still. I still tweak a little bit here and there. But my basic meanings are there. I like to think that my 10 positions on my cross look into 4 basic aspects of the question. And that is what, why, how, and when. What is the real question? Why do you want this in your life? How are we going to get it? And when is the best time to act? I think this is more useful than this is what's going to happen. And it's worked out very well for me. So focusing more on the application instead of the cards, I think, is really a big help. Any deck of cards you like, any deck of cards you want to use, whether it's my deck or it's another deck, they all work. So you want to use Lord of the Rings Tarot or something like that, go ahead and try them. Have fun with them. Right now I'm using the Rider-Waite, I'm using my deck, I'm using Grimmett's deck, Marseille, I'm using the Morgan Greer deck, and the Sacred Rose. Those are the decks that I have around in certain areas where I'm at. So that phone rings, I pick up wherever the deck is. Okay, that's the deck I'm using. And they work fine. These are my thoughts. I just wanted to share them with you. I hope you like this. Thanks for watching, and keep throwing cards. Talk soon.